These are some of the times that signature dishes turn out to be shocking. And this contestant right here was taking every fancy sounding ingredient he could think of and combining them all into a single horrifying dish. I know I haven't named any names yet, but you probably know who I'm talking about. And how did Chef Ramsay feel about it? Well, he couldn't believe his eyes. He seriously thought that Matt Sigel was playing a prank on him.
Do you smoke?
Cigarettes?
No.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at a culinary high crime here, and Chef Ramsay wasn't gonna not point it out. I mean, come on.
That must be one of the worst combinations I've ever tasted in 21 years of cooking.
So we've definitely seen our fair share of clumsy ideas and clumsier executions in this competition, but this one was made with way too much overconfidence.
Chef Ramsay is gonna love it because it's delicious.
That's Carrie Keep talking about her chicken fried ribeye, served with creamy mashed potatoes, and to top it all off, a fancy white truffle cream gravy. Sounds pretty good, right? More like too good to be true. Because in the end, Carrie had a confession to make.
I actually have a little sugar in there.
Stop, say that again.
Now, it's not difficult to tell how Chef Ramsay's feeling by looking at his face. You could see how he went from curiosity to complete disbelief in no time flat. I bet Carrie couldn't have expected the fallout that resulted after she said this.
Chef Ramsay is gonna love it because it's delicious.
But alas, Chef Ramsay didn't come to the same conclusion. Nowhere near, actually. There was definitely some false advertising going on here. And the only thing left to do was spit it out and call it for what it was.
That is disgusting.
With that, let's move on to the all-new season of Hell's Kitchen, which is already off to a dramatic start. So, in the Signature Dish Challenge, we met Demir from Philadelphia. He began by stating how important this opportunity was for him to potentially gain some financial security.
Coming from where I come from, North Philadelphia, you don't get a lot of opportunity.
But would he be able to gain Chef Ramsay's confidence? Well, let's find out. His signature dish was linguine with coconut cream, and let me tell you, it looked absolutely delicious visually.
Grilled lobster with coconut curry cream linguine.
I'd definitely eat it. But there was a bit of a problem.
Linguine, is it fresh?
No.
Aw, brother, surely you must have done your homework, right? Did you forget what happened to Monique from season 14 or Kevin from season 15? Oh, and of course, the great Mike Aresta from season 12. He was the fourth contestant from the blue team, ready to face off against Keisha. So he had his dish ready to go, a plate of tortellini with tomatoes, and he was thinking he had it in the bag. But here's where things got a bit cheesy. Turns out the filling for his tortellini was far from fresh.
It's a packaged tortellini.
You could see the disappointment in Chef Ramsay's eyes. And of course, there was really only one place that the dish belonged after that little revelation, the trash. Now, instead of owning up to his mistake, Mike started to question Chef Ramsay's judgment. I mean, why trash it, right? It couldn't be that bad. It wasn't dog food. His words, not mine.
That's bullshit, bro.
What did you just say?
But Chef Ramsay immediately called Mike up to the front in response. He wanted an explanation for the outburst, and Mike was totally caught off guard. Dude was at a total loss for words. That's when Chef Ramsay made it clear that there was no place for insubordination or disrespect in his kitchen. Hear, hear.
You got anything to say to me? Say it to my face, not my back.
You got it.
And fuck off.
And then, of course, there was also Kimberly from season 16, the executive chef and catering manager of a Latin-infused sushi restaurant.
Latin-infused sushi.
We do Latin-infused sushi.
Yeah, believe me, Chef Ramsay was as confused as the rest of us probably were. He was probably gearing up for some Japanese-inspired dish, but Kimberly had other plans. What was her dish, you ask? Some pappardelle pasta, clams, and a vibrant tomatoey sauce that practically screamed flavor. It all sounded promising, didn't it? Sadly, it didn't live up to the expectations. Chef Ramsay took one look at Kimberly's dish and let it rip. The whole thing was a disaster. But why was this the case? Well, just watch this.
Homemade pasta?
No, unfortunately not.
Obviously fresh clams.
I used 1 can of canned clam.
So it should go without saying that she probably walked away with just 1 point after this mess, right? Now let's get back to Demir. The flavor profile of his dish was far from redeemable too.
No, I'm not around because the lobsters just taste bland.
Chef Ramsay asked Carmen, his opponent, to taste the dish and rate it while he was at it. Carmen gave it a disappointing 2.
You're missing salt.
He's not only missing salt, he's allergic to salt.
Damn, that was unnecessarily humiliating. But did Chef Ramsay agree with Carmen's evaluation? Yeah, he wasn't one bit impressed.
Well, I think you're generous. For me, it's a 1.
Demir, predictably, was given the lowest score in that challenge. He should have heeded the wise words of Devin.
You gotta be better than that. If you use box pasta, you've just disrespected Chef Ramsay.
Amen. But hey, if we've learned anything from Hell's Kitchen, it's that the signature dish challenge isn't the be-all end-all of how far any given contestant is gonna go. We had Latasha in season 13 with her grilled watermelon, who ended up as the winner. We have Danny, who was politely asked to shove the grilled bananas up his ass. And of course, there was Petrosa's funny little Halloween scare. But none could compare to the season 7 winner Holly Ugault. She was the second contestant from the red team to face Chef Ramsay's judgment, and she was up against Benjamin. Her dish was a banana leaf wrapped halibut, which sounds fine on paper I guess, but Chef Ramsay's reaction was nothing short of shocking. The famous chef immediately trashed the banana leaf, which put her on the defensive. She claimed that it was a classic Northern Indian dish. But Chef Ramsay, harkening back to his own extensive experiences in India, told her that he'd never seen food anywhere near what she'd given him anywhere near India.
I've been to India. I haven't seen food like that.
Things took a turn for the worse when the famous chef took a bite and promptly spat it out. Cultural touchstone or not, the flavor wasn't doing her any favors.
Holly, that was a disaster.
Despite the rocky start, it was an absolute delight watching her journey to the very top. It'll be so fun to follow Demir's arc on the show and see if he uses this setback as fuel to fly to the top. I'm rooting for you, brother. Now, let's do a little fun quiz. Let's put your HK knowledge to the test. I'll describe a menu of some of the most unappetizing dishes served, and you have to name the contestant who made them. Are you ready? Okay, so number 1. This dish can best be described as a plate of liquid shit, one that made Chef Ramsay violently puke it out.
Fucking hell.
Here's a little additional hint. Viewers are convinced that the maker of this dish was so embarrassed about it that she quit by faking a medical emergency. Either that, or she suffered a panic attack. Number 2 on the menu is a pan-seared chicken breast stuffed with portobello mushrooms and goat cheese that was overcooked on the outside and raw on the inside.
Excuse me.
Third is poached lobster tail with portobello mushrooms. Its creator flirted with Chef Ramsay during its presentation, but to no avail since it was thrown in the trash for being absolutely pathetic. Here's a little hint, the lobster tail was missing.
Where's the fucking tail?
Fourth up is a dish served by the oldest competitor in the history of the show. It was veal stuffed with prosciutto and gruyere in tomato sauce. The presentation initially shocked Chef Ramsay, but it ended up being cooked to perfection.
It's cooked to perfection.
So, how did you do? Let me know in the comment section down below whether or not you got them all right. Now, this next chef was pretty forgettable, except for his hilarious performance in the first challenge. You see, JP was pretty speedy in the kitchen. He wrapped up his cooking a whopping 20 minutes before the time was up. But when Chef Ramsay heard about it, he was shocked.
What is this? You've got just under 15 minutes to go. I'll keep it hot. You'll keep it hot?
JP wasn't convinced that Chef Ramsay's cynicism was warranted. He just kept saying that he could keep the dish warm and ready to go. But the famous chef warned him that it was doomed to become a sad, overcooked mess if he tried to do that. So, reluctantly, he decided to start from scratch. Fast forward to the judging phase, and JP was the second contestant up, going head-to-head with Sade. Before even taking a single bite, Chef Ramsay busted out his inner detective on JP. He grilled him about whether he had genuinely made an entirely new dish after wrapping things up so early the first time, and JP confirmed that he did. With that revelation hanging in the air, JP displayed his creation. It was a Boston baked haddock paired with fingerling potatoes, haricots verts, and a zesty lemon beurre blanc sauce. Sounds pretty good, right? Well, Chef Ramsay really wasn't in a forgiving mood that day. He tore into the dish, calling out how dry the fish was, how hard the potatoes were, and, well, hear this for yourself.
Potatoes are solid, and that looks like something out of the 1970s.
The famous chef really didn't stop there, though. He made sure to remind JP that he was the only chef who had to cook his dish twice, which was a huge mark against him.
I'm struggling whether to let you come to Hell's Kitchen or send you home.
And to rub some salt into his wound, he gave JP's dish a pitiful score of just 1 out of 5. But have you ever come across a contestant who wanted to transport Chef Ramsay into a different world through their dish? Well, there's probably a pretty long list, but the first person who comes to mind for me is this guy.
He's gonna be in that orgasm, like the Zen mode.
That's Gaurav, hoping that Chef Ramsay would feel the ultimate zen after taking his first bite of his signature dish Dukkha-crusted tuna steak paired with pepper rice. So, what did Chef Ramsay do? He decided to enlighten him.
What a big disappointment. Disgusting.
That was rough. But like Zen masters would probably tell him, you gotta chill homie and just let that shit go. Now, here comes another contestant whose dish came close to Garob's catastrophe. Jamie from season 7 was excited to present her creamy chicken Kiev, complete with brown rice and asparagus. She genuinely thought that this was her moment to shine, but the famous chef spotted something amiss.
That is the toothpick.
A pesky toothpick of all things sticking right out of the dish. This obviously completely put Chef Ramsay off it.
I'm not even gonna taste it.
And fair enough. I wouldn't want to taste something made so negligently either. But guess what? Her opponent didn't really do well either. Scott brought his duck breast accompanied by parsnip puree up, alongside some sort of politician-type speech with them.
It'll be a struggle for me to be a cook amongst other cooks because I've become accustomed to being a chef amongst cooks.
Yeah, okay, we get it. But surprise, surprise, his dish didn't have a single appetizing element in it.
There's not one appetizing ingredient.
Naturally, neither Jamie nor he managed to score any points in this round. Now, Joanna from season 3 had quite the winning strategy up her sleeve, didn't she? Yeah, she was the one who nearly served rancid crab to a customer.
I'll flirt, I'll manipulate, I'll be able to get what I want out of Chef Ramsay.
Now, let's see how that went down. Her dish was a Parmesan-crusted chicken with whole wheat spaghetti and a raspberry Bellini. But Chef Ramsay, well, he didn't buy into her charm. He took one look at her dish, handed her the Bellini, and then...
There we go.
But wait, what about the dish?
What have you done to that?
It was drier than my humor and saltier than most of the comments you've been dropping lately.
The chicken's dry. Salty, salty, dry. Take your drink back, thank you.
Talk about a bad start. But here comes the next contestant who has not one, but 2 runs in the world of HK. There's no denying that Robin in All Stars was a little more tolerable than her original appearance in season 10. But what do you think? Despite that though, it still doesn't make any sense how she got the black jacket over Gio. Anyway, her performance during season 17's Signature Dish Challenge was downright hilarious. Actually, it's performance art. She should title it something like, how I overestimate my skills every time. She strolled up to the plate with all the confidence in the world, absolutely convinced that she was about to dazzle everyone. Behold, her grand creation, the pan-seared salmon complete with what she claimed was crispy skin, alongside a cauliflower puree.
I'm not worried. I've got this. It's all about taking.
Chef Ramsay took one bite and the disappointment was palpable. That so-called crispy skin? Well, it was about as crispy as a wet napkin. The famous chef wasn't content with merely his own verdict, so he graciously offered a piece to Benjamin, and they both came to the same splendid consensus.
Extremely salty.
And now, it was time for Chef Ramsay to reveal the score.
1 out of 5. Oh. It was disgusting.
Gee, brutal. Up next, let's head over to the 3rd round of the challenge in season 11, which, let me remind you, was pretty insane. Susan stepped up to face Jeremy, who confidently served a smoked Gouda and onion stuffed steak with mashed potatoes. But Chef Ramsay wasn't convinced. He immediately kicked things off with some questions. First off, he wanted to know Jeremy's job, to which he responded with lead cook. Then came the big question about his dish. What was it? A ribeye? Jeremy hesitated before going back and forth and eventually setting on a tentative, I believe it is? A quote-unquote lead chef that can't tell one steak from another? Well, Chef Ramsay didn't appreciate his cluelessness. Now, it was Susan's turn. She proudly presented her lamb and couscous, but Chef Ramsay had a rather unusual question up his sleeve. And, well, the famous chef's roast wasn't over yet. He took a bite of the couscous and promptly spat it out. Yeah, Chef Ramsay wasn't in the mood to eat overcooked garbage. Well, he never is, but you get my point. He asked Susan if she found the situation amazing, to which she quietly shook her head. In the end, neither of them managed to score even a single point. By the way, we also had douchebag Dan this season, who had the audacity to kinda compare his dish to one of the biggest ever culinary legends.
How did you make the hollandaise?
I used whole butter. It's good enough for Julia Childs. It's good enough for me.
The audacity, I tell you. He served eggs Benedict, complete with champagne hollandaise sauce, tomatoes, and sautéed spinach. But the presentation was botched, and Chef Ramsay didn't hesitate to put him in his place.
Julia Childs would be turning in her grave right now if she saw that.
Damn right she will.
Did you throw up on that plate?
But up next, Amanda from season 6 set the bar real low. Before Chef Ramsay could even dive into her dish, she pulled a surprise move that left everyone raising their eyebrows.
2 seconds.
What's that?
Tequila.
Yeah, so she just gracefully stepped out of line, determined to snag some tequila shots, all in the hope of sharing one with Chef Ramsay himself. Talk about dreaming big, right? In no time, she was back, tequila shots in hand, ready for what promised to be an interesting twist. As for her dish, she presented margarita French toast with tequila batter. And well, Chef Ramsay didn't know what to say.
I thought you were joking. You're cooking me a slice of fucking toast dipped in egg with
Tequila.
to get me drunk.
Maybe he should have called her an alcoholic. Now, French toast is known for being pretty quick and easy to whip up, taking all of 3 minutes. Hell, I probably would have made it faster at home.
1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, 4. Give me a lot more.
Now, this brings us to a very important question. What the hell was she doing for that whole time? Come on, Amanda. Did you really think you were at a bachelorette party? Well, either way, Chef Ramsay was stunned. Now, during Thomas Henry Polly's signature dish challenge, Chef Ramsay noticed that he was working up quite a sweat and seemed to have quite the knack for self-deprecating humor.
I sweat all the time. I'm a schwätzer. Don't worry about that.
Well, honestly, I can't say he wasn't funny. But anyway, back to the task at hand. He presented a shrimp scampi paired with a twist, a cooked Caesar salad. Cooked? Wait, is that even a thing? Have any of you tried cooked Caesar salad before? I know I haven't, because Chef Ramsay, in all of his years of experience, also had it.
First time in my entire life, I've been served a cooked Caesar salad.
Yeah, he wasn't too pleased with even the idea of it, revolted even. And that revulsion forced his hand.
There you go.
As for the shrimp scampi, they met a similar fate.
Back with your Caesar salad.
Thank you, chef.
But Tom, to his credit, seemed pretty unshaken. He boldly claimed that he could handle Chef Ramsay's criticism.
I'm a man, I can take it, it's no big deal. He wouldn't break my chop.
Now, wow, I've got to respect the man's confidence. Most contestants immediately get bitter and angry when faced with criticism half as harsh as Tom faced here. I guess he was prepared for the worst. And he took that resilient attitude of his all the way to 8th place that season. But sadly, he passed away on July 1st of this year. His obituary reads, Tom's highlight was being cast on season 2 of Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay. And I'm sure being featured on the show meant a lot to him. We'll miss you, Mr. Polly. So, these were some of the most shocking signature dishes that have ever had the displeasure of crossing Chef Ramsay's plate. If you could think of any other dishes that could rival any of the ones I talked about today, make sure to drop them in the comments section down below. Now, don't forget to join me on my channel's Discord server for free, where we can take a deep dive into more signature dishes that left Chef Ramsay shocked. And guess what? I even have an exclusive server for those of you who are interested. Well, I'm definitely excited to see you there, but before you leave, make sure to smack that like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Also, don't forget to check out my latest video right here, since it's even crazier.